living here and there, and my poetry examines self and place. And I find myself exploring the question of who am I, what is my identity? And I ask you to pose your own questions, whether you move from city to town or town to city, or move between more than two cultures. I think we all can relate to words and feelings of loss, love, survival, resilience, balance, and belonging. And I'm going to take you on a journey tonight, and hopefully you can relate to some of my poems. We're going to start that journey in Youghal, which is my husband's hometown. This is Brendan here. And I'm the one who brought him back to Youghal because he was always dreaming about American people, but the location was always Youghal. And one day I drove from my mom's house in Douglas in Cork, and they opened up the Jack Lynch Tunnel, and it took me 35 minutes to get from Cork to Youghal. And so I thought, I could live here. So that day we saw a home, and that's where we are based part of the time. So my first poem is called Rainy Day in Youghal. Like the humdrum sound in my head, the drip-drop rhythm of rain interrupts my thoughts. Calm before storm, hazy, lazy Sunday afternoon. Nothing to do, no one in sight, no imprints or footsteps in the sand, just quiet reflection of life mirrored in a hazy, lazy sea. Where are they now, those sunny days? With focus on a glimmer of light, fills my mind with hope of warmth. Cool colors and twisting waves soothe my soul for now. Infinite view, horizontal line, crisscrossed waves, lead your eyes to the sky. Time lost in rainy atmosphere, hoping against all hope for a sunny day. Now I have to tell you a story about Joe Creedon, because you can't. Brendan and I go into Joe, and he will give us a whole hour of stories. I mean, it's magic. He has stories of my great-granduncle, Tom Taylor, who actually what I would call is a strolling poet. He would go from house to house looking for dinner, seemingly. And so he had places, even when we were in the bar just last week, a gentleman sitting there, Joe would say, "Hey, did Tom go to your house?" "Yes, he did." The next gentleman came in, "Did Tom go to your house?" "Yes, he did." And there could be 7-8 miles between these houses, but he made his way around telling stories. So I like to think I want to be in that tradition of sharing my poems and telling stories. One story that Joe told us was that my great-grandmother was from Ballincollig, which is something I hadn't known. And the way he tells it is that when she got married, she came in from Ballincollig, and he said, she came in by night. She always said, this is what he told us, she always said, she came in by night. If she had come in by day, she wouldn't have stayed. And then he always says, but the deed was done. It was like, it reminds me of her, maybe a sense of humor she had, but also of the hard work of that small farm up the hill. So I feel very connected to Inchiquila, so I look forward to chatting to you more. Now, we're back again now to the here and there. And we spend a lot of time in Shannon Airport. We come through Indianapolis. You can't go direct. It's an international airport, but the only international flight is Canada. So we have to take 2 flights to get to Ireland. So we go through Newark and into Shannon usually. When you're leaving Shannon, they have the customs and immigration. So you don't have to spend 2 or 3 hours on the U.S. side, going through customs or anything. So you can just go pick up your bags in Indianapolis. That makes it easy for us. So one day I was going through, and they always ask the same questions. How long have you been in Ireland? What are you doing in Ireland? Was it business? Was it pleasure? So one day I said to them, you know what? I live here and I live there. And the lady said, oh, she said, you've got the best of both worlds. So 6 months later, I had a poem. It's called Best of Both Worlds. Whether the sun shines or the wind blows, you'll find me on an aeroplane going home. Maybe you'll find me on a boat or a bus. Whatever the object of my transportation, I'm on my way. Driven by love or fear of losing ties, my veins are pumped and my heart is full. After soaking in the views and renewing senses, my mind returns, and then it's time to reverse the sojourn. Back again, my other home awaits. 2 worlds exist, and I experience parallel lives. The hairdressers, the coffee shops, friends and family equally shape me. Except for sea and sand, my days are similar. Mirror images of self and self. My world is my world. I think I'm going to read from my book here another poem, more about emigration, so bear with me till I get the page here and read it to you. So, this was one of my earlier poems. Somebody asked me earlier, when did I start writing? And I really started writing when my youngest son went off to college. And so I started painting first, and then the poem would come through. But this poem was very early on, and so I think it's after the 1916 one. It's a good one to read. It's more about the sense of emigrating, and even maybe longer time ago, because nowadays, of course, we have the internet, we have Facebook, we have Skype. Maybe it's even more difficult now because we can't let go. In those days, people hadn't telephones and couldn't get back. So this poem is about that, about somebody leaving and not being able to get back. It's called Exile's Song. It's been a while since e'er I saw you. It's been a while since I was home. But don't you fear, because I love you. When I lay my head down, I know I'll be home again someday. It's been all of 7 years. It's taken all my innocent ways. But I can still see your colors. When I lay my head down, I know I'll be home again someday. It's been all of 17 years. It's taken all my blonde hair. But I can still hear your music. When I lay my head down, I know I'll be home again someday. It's been all of 27 years. It's taken all my breath away. But I can still smell your flowers. When I lay my head down, I know I'm home today. This poem is called Deja Vu. Autumn rolls round again, burst of colour, blast of energy, leaves full of life, and then they tumble, land and later decay, into that same land forever, again and again, round and round, stacking up layer upon layer, building a fort into a mound. On dried out, stricken ash trees, you could hear the woodpecker peck, Indian summer beating down, down on my knees and neck. Alrighty. We're going to end on this last poem here. It's called Childlike Innocence. And it actually goes back to the first poem in my book. And I think I want to end on it because it really goes back to that sense of, Brendan was looking at the ink wells there on the desk, and you know, we all have some of us old enough to have memories of those ink wells, so it goes back to our childhood, and you know, I wasn't a very good student. I actually had too much fun in class, so this tells that little story as well. Childlike innocence. It reminds me of childlike innocence, where fairies dance up and down, a time when it was okay to have no sense, a time when it was fun to be a clown. Majestic mountains standing proud, giving strength to all who stare. Shout with all your lungs out loud, live life, love life, seek to dare. Simplicity is best experienced after excess. Love regained is twice as sweet. Freedom known through loss keeps us on our feet. After all, it reminds me of being grown up, dreaming dreams and being a friend, drinking from the overflowing cup, happy life, no strife in the end. I want to thank you for allowing me to be me, and hopefully you've enjoyed these poems tonight. Thank you.